Ethiopia and Eritrea share centuries of history, culture, and blood, yet their modern story is one of division and conflict. Eritrea was once Ethiopia's northern province and its gateway to the Red Sea, until post-Naum politics changed everything. When Emperor Haile Selassie annexed Eritrea in 1962, it sparked a 30-year war for independence. Generations were lost to the conflict, families divided, and the dream of Eritrean independence became a symbol of resilience. The fall of Ethiopia's Derg regime in 1991 finally opened the door to Eritrean independence. In 1993, Eritreans voted overwhelmingly for independence, and both nations seemed ready for a new era of cooperation. Borders opened, trade flourished, and hope was high for peace and prosperity. But optimism faded quickly as disputes over trade, currency, and especially the border reignited old resentments. Former allies became rivals, and the unresolved border set the stage for another devastating conflict. The promise of peace was short-lived, and the seeds of future war were sown. The shared past could not overcome the deep wounds left by decades of struggle. The Horn of Africa was once again on the brink. In May 1998, a border dispute over the town of Bodme erupted into full-scale war. What began as a minor skirmish escalated into a brutal conflict, with both nations sacrificing thousands for a patch of barren land. The war was marked by trench warfare, staggering casualties, and the expulsion of tens of thousands from both countries. Families were torn apart, and bitterness deepened on both sides. In 2000, the Algiers Agreement ended the fighting and established a boundary commission to settle the dispute. The commission awarded Bodme to Eritrea in 2002, but Ethiopia refused to withdraw, prolonging the stalemate. Instead of closure, the ruling opened a new chapter of tension. The border remained a flashpoint and the wounds of war festered. The promise of peace was replaced by suspicion and unresolved anger. The people who once lived as neighbors now faced each other as adversaries. The conflict's legacy would haunt both nations for years to come. The border scab never truly healed. For nearly 20 years, Ethiopia and Eritrea lived in a state of no war, no peace. The border became a militarized no-man's land, dividing families and stifling trade. In Eritrea, the threat from Ethiopia justified indefinite national service and harsh authoritarian rule, driving many to flee. Ethiopia's government also used the standoff to consolidate power and suppress dissent. Resources were drained by military spending, while hopes for development faded. The unresolved border dispute held both nations hostage, with peace and prosperity always out of reach. The dream of regional unity remained elusive. In 2018, a breakthrough arrived. Ethiopia's new Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, accepted the Algiers Agreement and pledged to withdraw from disputed territories. Abiy's bold move led to a historic meeting with Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki, restoring diplomatic ties and reopening borders. Families reunited, flights resumed, and hope surged across the region. Abiy was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts, but the peace was fragile, largely a deal between two leaders, lacking broad support or clear implementation. Key issues like border demarcation remained unresolved, and border crossings soon closed again. The euphoria faded as mistrust resurfaced. The handshake that promised a new era could not erase decades of suspicion. The peace accord's promise was quickly overshadowed by old divisions. The region's future was still uncertain. The 2018 peace deal realigned regional politics, uniting Abiy and Isaias against a common enemy, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. As Abiy sidelined the TPLF, tensions escalated, and in 2020 war erupted in Tigray. Eritrean forces joined the conflict, and reports of atrocities mounted. The alliance that once promised peace now fueled a new humanitarian crisis, displacing millions. The hopes of 2018 were shattered by violence and mistrust. A 2022 peace agreement called for the withdrawal of foreign troops, but Eritrean forces remain in Tigray. The war left deep scars, complicating any hope for lasting peace. The region was plunged back into instability. Today, tensions are rising again as Ethiopia seeks access to the Red Sea, calling its landlocked status a strategic threat. Prime Minister Abiy's rhetoric has alarmed Eritrea and neighboring states, raising fears of renewed conflict. Both countries are reportedly massing troops along their border, and the risk of war looms large. The international community urges restraint, but the region's future hangs in the balance. Shared history and culture offer hope for reconciliation, but nationalism and strategic interests threaten to pull the nations apart. The path from peace to war remains dangerously short. The choices of leaders and the resilience of their people will shape what comes next. The Horn of Africa's